there, amazing people. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And on today's episode of Question for the Day, we're dealing with a question that deals with the empirical formula and the molecular formula of a compound. Question says a compound contains 40% carbon, 6.7% hydrogen, and 53.3% oxygen by mass. If the relative molecular mass of the compound is 60, what is its molecular formula? So the first thing we need to do is obtain the empirical formula, and here is a rundown of the steps to do that. First of all, we start by assuming 100 grams of the compound, and then we divide by the atomic masses, and then we divide by the smallest, and then we find the molar mass of the empirical formula, and then we get the molecular formula. Don't worry, we're going to do all these steps one after the other. So let's get into it step by step. So we have the question now. This first step says assume 100 grams of the compound. So carbon has 40%, hydrogen has 6.7%, and oxygen has 53.3%. So instead of percent, we just change them to grams. So we have 40 grams, 6.7 grams, and 53.3 grams. Next thing is to divide by the individual atomic masses. All right, so we have 40 for carbon divided by 12 because the atomic mass of carbon is 12. Hydrogen is divided by 1 and oxygen is divided by 16. So when we do the divisions, 40 divided by 12, all right, 40 divided by 12 will give us 3.3. So we have 3.3, and then 6.7 divided by 1 remains the same. And then we have 53.3 divided by 16, which gives us 3.3 as well. So now the next step is to divide by the smallest among all three of them. So the smallest is 3.3. So when we divide by 3.3, 3.3, and 3.3, we end up having 1, 2, and 1. So all these numbers, we can assign them to the individual elements. So we have C1, H2, and O1. So the empirical formula of this compound is CH2O. So now that we have the empirical formula, the next thing to do is to obtain the molecular formula. How do you do that? First of all, you find the molar mass of the empirical formula. The empirical formula is CH2O. So let's find the mass. C is 12. 12 plus 1 times 2, because hydrogen is 1 and we have 2 atoms of hydrogen, plus 16. So this gives us 12 plus 2 plus 16. This is equal to 14 plus 16. 14 plus 16 gives us 30. So that's the mass of the empirical formula. So the next thing to do is to obtain the molecular formula. Molecular formula is equals to the molecular mass divided by the empirical mass. The molecular mass, they told us, is 60 divided by the empirical mass. The empirical mass is 30, so this is 2. So in order to obtain the molecular formula now, the molecular formula will now be equal to the empirical formula CH2O multiplied by these 2. So we have CH2O multiplied by 2. That gives us C2H4O2. Is there any option like that among all the options? C2H4O2. Let's check it out. Yes, we have that as option B, C2H4 and O2. That's option B. So I'm sure you saw how all the steps were carried out. If you enjoyed today's episode of Question for the Day, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.